You think doing the easy thing will get you anywhere? Here, only those who choose to do what's hard, those who dare step into places where others run away, are the ones who truly change this world. This isn't a fairy tale. This is real fire, born from blood, sweat, and buried dreams. If you're looking for an easy road, leave now. But if you're ready to enter the world of those who never back down, watch until the very last second. Chapter 1. Lost in Ashburn. Setting: small town of Ashburn, Nebraska, USA, when Ethan is 22 years old. Ashburn, Nebraska, where every dusty road led back to endless fields, and every golden sunset was stained with a heaviness of monotony. This was where Ethan Carter was born, raised, and for 22 years had never once stepped beyond the safe, unchanging loops of his hometown. Ethan leaned against the old wooden railing of his porch, eyes drifting lazily toward the horizon, endless stretches of cornfields that seemed to never end. In his pocket, his hand clenched a letter from the local community college, suspended due to poor academic performance. A soft breeze swept by, carrying the scent of wild grass and dusty earth. Ethan closed his eyes and took a long breath. Inside him, a heavy sigh echoed. "You're such a loser, Ethan," a voice in his head whispered. "Hey, spacing out again." Liam Brooks, his childhood friend, hopped down from his rusty pickup truck and tossed him a cold soda can. Ethan caught it, but didn't open it. He just stared at Liam with hollow eyes. "It's about school, huh?" Liam asked, his face full of reluctant sympathy. Ethan nodded. Liam sighed and scratched his head. "It's fine, bro. Honestly, it's probably better you dropped out. Here in this town, who the hell needs a fancy degree anyway? Come work at the auto shop with me. Stable. Easy. No need to chase stupid dreams." Ethan Carter, mechanic. Ethan laughed bitterly. "Wasn't I the one who always said I wanted to do something bigger?" Liam shrugged. "Bigger for what? This town wasn't made for anyone to succeed, man. You know it." Ethan stayed silent. Somewhere deep inside, he knew Liam wasn't wrong. How many in Ashburn had dared to dream? And how many had eventually given up? His father, once dreaming of becoming a musician, now delivering construction supplies. His mother, once dreaming of opening a cafe, now running a tiny grocery stall from their garage. His friends, once full of dreams, now settling for an easy life because the hard road was too much. That night, Ethan sat alone on the roof. The sparse stars above barely lit his small figure against the endless dark. In his hands, he held an old notebook filled during his high school years with hundreds of startup ideas, dream projects, plans to change the world. But now, each word felt like meaningless scribbles. Empty. "If only," Ethan whispered. "If only I were good enough." Just then, his phone buzzed. A text from Liam. "Interview tomorrow at the auto shop. I signed you up. Relax, it's a sure thing." Ethan stared at the message for a long, long time. An easy path, a safe ticket, a life without pain and without glory. The next day, Ethan still showed up at the interview. The auto shop sat at a deserted corner. The air reeked of oil, burnt metal, and sweat. The boss, a pot-bellied man in a greasy tank top, eyed Ethan up and down and grunted. "Your hand looks soft, kid, but don't worry. Around here, all we need is obedience." Obedience. Ethan gave a crooked smile. All his life, he had obeyed everyone else. Don't take risks. Choose the easy road. Don't try too hard. And where had that gotten him? Sitting in a crumbling garage, about to sign a contract for a life he never wanted. Ethan's hand reached for the pen, then froze. He stood up. "Saw the... I can't," Ethan said, voice trembling but firm. The boss blinked. Liam gawked. "Are you crazy?" Liam shouted as Ethan stormed out the door. Maybe he was crazy, Ethan thought. But if this was the price to find something bigger, he would pay it. That afternoon, Ethan rode his battered bicycle into the center of town. On a streetlight pole, he saw a flyer. Career Workshop, turning passion into career. Speaker, Mr. Hayes, former CEO, founder, international mentor. Ethan had no idea who Mr. Hayes was, but the words, turning passion into career, made his heart race. Without hesitation, Ethan tore down the flyer, stuffed it into his jacket pocket, and pedaled home like the wind. That evening, Ethan wore the neatest shirt he owned and stood nervously outside the town church, the venue for the workshop. About 30 people were there, mostly high schoolers, a few middle-aged townsfolk, and Ethan, a 22-year-old guy who had just walked away from an easy life. On stage, Mr. Hayes appeared. He wasn't tall or flashy, no designer suites, but his eyes, burning with a fire Ethan had never seen before, instantly captivated the room. Mr. Hayes didn't boast about his achievements. He didn't share flashy success stories. He simply began with a question. Are you doing something that truly feels hard? Silence fell over the room. Mr. Hayes smiled and walked slowly. If what you're doing feels easy, he said, I'm sorry. You're walking the most crowded, ordinary path there is. He paused, letting his gaze sweep over every face. Want to leave the crowd behind? Choose the hardest thing. Make sure it's truly hard. So hard that others will look at it and give up. Ethan's heart pounded. Every word hit like a hammer on his soul. Mr. Hayes closed with one final line, a line that would change Ethan's life forever. Do what feels hardest. Make sure it's truly hard, so they can never follow you. When the workshop ended, Ethan remained seated, frozen. Everything had become clear. He would not choose the easy road. He would not settle for safety. He would find the unbreakable wall and be the one who climbed over it, no matter what it cost. Chapter 2. The first hard choice. The next morning, Ashburn remained unchanged. The same muddy roads, endless fields, and early risers heading to work, returning home, trapped in a dreary, repetitive rhythm. But inside Ethan Carter, a storm had erupted. Mr. Hayes' words still echoed in his mind. Do what feels hardest. Make sure it's truly hard, so they can never follow you. Ethan hadn't slept all night. He tossed and turned, flipping through his old notebook, searching for something, a path so hard that most would give up at first glance. And as the first rays of sunlight broke the horizon, Ethan knew what he had to do. He opened his laptop, his most prized tech possession, and typed into Google, Top 10 most difficult but fastest growing careers in 2025. The list appeared: AI and machine learning technology, virtual reality, VR, game development, green tech startups, regenerative medicine and biotechnology, data mining and cybersecurity. Each line danced before Ethan's eyes. They were all hard, brutally hard, but one stood out above the rest: AI and machine learning technology. Ethan closed his eyes, recalling his past. He had nearly failed advanced math in his sophomore year. Coding? Algorithms? He never once believed he could understand such things. And yet, that fear made him smile. If it scares me, that's the right sign. Without hesitation, Ethan decided he would become an AI specialist, while his peers in Ashburn still scrambled for easier jobs. A profession so demanding that even Ivy League top students struggled with it. A path Ethan knew 95% would abandon on the very first day. But he wouldn't. That afternoon, Ethan scraped together all his meager savings. Barely over $300, money he had planned to spend on a new bicycle. He searched for online courses on Python programming and basic AI. He found one on a reputable platform, priced at $249. Ethan stared at the enroll button for 5 minutes straight. That amount of money, for him, was enormous. If he failed, he would lose everything. But he remembered Mr. Hayes' words. It must be hard, truly hard, so they can't catch up to you. He clicked. Thank you for enrolling. Your course starts now. A small notification popped up, and at that exact moment, Ethan Carter stepped onto a road with no way back. The days that followed were a battlefield. Ethan spent an average of 14 hours a day in front of his laptop. Lines of code, algorithms, all appeared like an endless labyrinth. Every time his program crashed, Ethan felt the urge to smash his computer. Many nights, he cried, not out of weakness, but out of sheer helplessness against something so vast, so complex. In those moments, he would reopen his small notebook and read the same quote again and again. Do what feels hardest. And he told himself, just one more day. As long as I don't quit, I win. Ashburn looked at Ethan like he was insane. Old friends mocked him. Learning AI in this backwater town? Dream on, Ethan. You think you're a genius or something? People spend 4 years at MIT for that. Around here, we need mechanics, not some delusional engineer. Even Liam shook his head when he saw Ethan growing skinny, with dark circles under his eyes and messy hair from sleepless nights. You're wasting your life, bro, Liam said. You could just get a job at the auto shop and live easy. Ethan stayed silent. No one understood, and he didn't need them to. 6 months passed. Ethan completed his first course. Not with an A grade, not with a certificate, but with something far greater. A simple AI chatbot that he coded by himself. When he hit run and saw the chatbot respond correctly, Ethan burst into tears. No one witnessed it. No one applauded. But it was the greatest victory of his life thus far. Victory over himself. When Ethan applied for an internship at a small startup company in Seattle, he was still trembling. In his cover letter, Ethan didn't brag about his grades. He simply wrote, "I'm not an Ivy League student. I don't have impressive academic achievements. But I have something 99% of others don't. I chose the hardest path, and I never gave up." A week later, Ethan received an email. "Congratulations, Ethan Carter. We are excited to welcome you as an intern at Novatech AI Lab, Seattle." Ethan collapsed onto his chair, tears streaming down his face. Not because he was finally rewarded, but because this was only the beginning. The day Ethan packed his belongings onto a bus heading to Seattle, no one came to see him off, except his mother. She hugged Ethan tightly and whispered, "Go, my son. Don't be afraid. Always walk towards the hardest road. I'm proud of you." Ethan squeezed his mother's hand, then turned away without daring to look back. The bus rolled away, leaving behind the tiny town of Ashburn, and the old Ethan Carter cowardly and afraid. Ahead lay a vast, chaotic, and challenging world. Ahead was the seemingly insurmountable wall Ethan had chosen to face. Chapter 3. The City of Giants. Seattle greeted Ethan Carter with a cold, piercing rain. Towering skyscrapers, flashing billboards, and crowds moving like swarms of ants racing against time. Ethan stepped off the battered bus, backpack on his shoulders, hand clutching a worn-out suitcase. Before him stood Novatech AI Lab, the place where he would start his internship, just a distant name until now. A small tech lab amid a sea of brilliant minds. Ethan knew he was nothing more than a tiny speck stepping into the City of Giants. His first day at Novatech was overwhelming. The AI engineers there casually tossed around terms he had never even heard of. Reinforcement learning, generative adversarial networks, self-supervised algorithms. Every conversation was like a mental duel. Fast, dense with knowledge, and merciless to anyone who couldn't keep up. Ethan felt like a lost child. He was assigned a small desk by the window. On it sat an old computer and a welcome email. "Welcome, Ethan. Your task: build a prototype AI that can predict user preferences based on incomplete data." Ethan read and reread the words. His heart pounded violently in his chest. It was a task far beyond his current abilities. What he'd learned so far was basic theory. Reality was a brutal, bloody battlefield. In the days that followed, Ethan worked tirelessly, forgetting to eat or sleep. He researched every unfamiliar term. Vechet endless tutorial videos. Read books from dawn till midnight. Every time he thought he understood something, a new wall appeared. Every time he found a glimmer of light, darkness thickened around him. Many times, Ethan wanted to give up. "I'm not good enough. I don't belong here. I'm wasting their time." These thoughts gnawed at him each night. But every time he was about to let go, he reminded himself, do what feels hardest, make sure it's truly hard, so they can never follow you. One evening, long after everyone had gone home, Ethan remained alone in the office. The streetlights cast his shadow long across the wall. He powered up his laptop, combed through every line of code, checked every function, painstakingly fixing every small error, every warning, every bug. And then, at 2 a.m., it ran. A bright green line flashed across the screen. Prototype completed. Accuracy, 87%. Ethan froze. He couldn't believe his eyes. He had done it. The next morning, Ethan presented his prototype to the Novatech leadership team. The conference room was silent as he demonstrated his AI. Everyone watched intently, taking notes, occasionally exchanging glances. When he finished, there was a long, heavy pause. Then Mr. Langston, Novatech's CTO, stood up, smiled, and said, "Not bad, rookie. Not bad at all." For the first time, Ethan felt true recognition. Not empty encouragement, but respect reflected in their eyes. Ethan Carter, the tiny speck, had taken his first real step in the city of giants. But he knew this was only the beginning. The city was merciless. Here, if you stopped moving for even a day, you would be left behind forever. A few weeks later, Ethan received a new assignment. Develop an AI model that can predict mental health issues from social media posts. A much more complex task. It required not only technical skills, but sensitivity, ethics, and deep understanding of human beings. Ethan threw himself into research like a madman. He read hundreds of scientific papers on AI and psychology. He interviewed healthcare experts. He tested dozens of different models. This time, nothing came easy. His system kept making wrong predictions. Sometimes it flagged completely healthy people as high risk for depression, painfully teaching Ethan that when technology makes mistakes, it can ruin real human lives. There were nights when Ethan sat alone in his dingy, rented apartment, his head in his hands, drowning in despair. But then he remembered Mr. Hayes' old words. When you choose something truly hard, you can't expect everything to go smoothly. Embrace the pain as part of the process. Ethan didn't quit. He studied more, tried new algorithms, fine-tuned his data sets, integrated emotional intelligence factors into the model. Month after month, fail, fix, fail again, fix again. Every failure taught him how to rise faster. And finally, one day, Ethan presented the finished version of his mental health prediction model. Accuracy, 93%. Early depression sign detection precision, 89%. The results were staggering. This time, the entire conference room stood up and applauded when Ethan finished. A month later, Ethan received an email from Novatech's CEO. "Ethan, we would like to offer you a full-time position at Novatech AI Lab as a junior AI engineer. Congratulations." Ethan sat still for a long time, overwhelmed. From a jobless small-town boy who once almost gave up everything, he had become an AI engineer at one of the world's rising tech hubs. Not by luck, not by natural genius, but by choosing the hardest path and refusing to give up. That night, Ethan stood alone on the balcony of his newly rented apartment, looking out over the dazzling lights of the city. Seattle, the city of giants. Ethan smiled. He knew, today, he was still small among the giants. But step by step, drop by drop of sweat, he was growing stronger. And someday, he himself would become one of the giants. Chapter 4. Walk Through Pain. Ethan Carter's career at Novatech opened a new chapter for him, but it also threw him into a completely different battlefield. A brutal race to survive and rise. Back when he was just an intern, Ethan only needed to survive. But now, as an official AI engineer, he had to fight not to be eliminated. Novatech was unlike any company he had ever known. Here, you're judged by results, not words. You could be a star today and unemployed tomorrow. Every project, every deadline is a life or death battle. No one cares how hard you tried. There are only two outcomes, success or failure. Ethan's first project as an official engineer was a top-secret mission. Project name, Athena Mind. Goal, create an AI capable of reading customer thoughts through unstructured data, online behavior, voice tone, facial expressions. The Athena project team had 12 members. All were top talents. Dr. Amelia Zhang, deep learning expert, former MIT researcher. Leo Ramirez, machine learning prodigy from Spain. Priya Kapoor, big data master from India. Ethan, the young man from Ohio, was the youngest and least experienced member. At the first project meeting, Ethan was almost overwhelmed. The technical discussions dove so deep that he couldn't keep up. Amelia Zhang exposed the flaws in Ethan's design in just a few sentences. Leo Ramirez constantly challenged and criticized him without mercy. Ethan felt like he was swimming in a vast ocean of information, each wave threatening to drown him. The first 3 weeks were hell. Ethan worked from 7 a.m. to 2 a.m. every day, chugging strong coffee to stay awake, fixing code, reading documents, learning new frameworks, experimenting with models, optimizing data pipelines. There were nights when Ethan fell asleep right at his desk. There were mornings when he woke up with swollen eyes, his entire body aching as if shredded. Every time he wanted to quit, Ethan recalled a vow he made. I will walk through pain. I will not run from it. One night, while reviewing the algorithms, Ethan discovered a critical flaw in Athena's sentiment analysis model. If left unfixed, the system could mispredict customer behavior, causing millions of dollars in losses. Ethan immediately reported the issue to Amelia Zhang. She simply nodded coldly. Fix it. You found a problem? You own the problem. Alone. No one to share the blame. He had to fix it. He had to save the entire system. Ethan threw himself into the greatest battle of his life. He rewrote the natural language processing functions, rebuilt the feature extraction pipeline, re-optimized the neural network. Each line of code felt like a blade slicing into his exhaustion. Each error was a punch to his already battered spirit. There were times when Ethan collapsed on the floor, hands clutching his head, unable to breathe. The pressure was crushing, like a mountain pressing down. But Ethan refused to quit. For 9 days straight, he lived without any sense of day or night. Finally, after 237 hours of struggle, the Athena mind system stabilized, with a 15% improvement in accuracy. At the final review meeting, when Ethan presented the optimization results, the entire Athena team fell silent, staring at him. For the first time, Amelia Zhang nodded slightly, her eyes full of respect. Good work, Ethan. You walked through fire. Welcome to the real game. Ethan had walked through pain and risen to a new level. But Novatech was a place where there was no concept of rest. Only 1 week after his victory at Athena, Ethan received a new mission, leading a small project team, his first time as a leader. Project Helios. Mission: develop an AI capable of auto-optimizing programming code based on user requirements. A challenge described as hard as mining gold from the moon. The Helios team included Sophie Laurent, programming language expert; Takashi Sato, math genius from Tokyo; Jason Morales, former hacker who had worked for the NSA. Each had a strong personality and wasn't easy to manage. In just the first week, conflicts exploded. Sophie complained that Jason didn't follow processes. Jason accused Sophie of being too slow and rigid. Takashi stayed silent, but often walked out of meetings. Helios was like a train speeding toward a cliff. Ethan realized technical success was one thing. Leading people was 10 times harder. He decided not to use authority to force compliance. Instead, Ethan spent time talking to each member privately, listening to Jason vent about rigid processes, understanding Sophie's fear of being unfairly judged, quietly connecting with Takashi over silent lunch breaks. Little by little, Ethan glued the Helios team together. 3 months later, Helios launched their first prototype. Their AI could optimize a 500-line JavaScript code down to 200 lines in just 3 seconds. A record-breaking achievement. The internal demo exploded with applause. Novatech's chief technology officer personally shook Ethan's hand. Congratulations, Ethan. You're no longer a rookie. You are a builder. That night, Ethan stood by the tall window, watching Seattle blurred by fog. He whispered to himself, walk through pain, build through pain, live through pain. Chapter 5. The Wall of Fear. 3 years passed. Ethan Carter was no longer the trembling intern he once was. He had become one of the most outstanding young engineers at Novatech. His name began to appear in internal reports, in strategic meetings. Sometimes, Ethan was even invited to speak at international tech conferences. From an unknown boy in Ohio, Ethan had gradually stepped onto the global stage. But success never comes for free. To reach this point, Ethan had paid with. Thousands of sleepless nights wrestling with code. Countless failures, collapses, and self-recoveries. Deep loneliness as old friends drifted away, unable to understand the world he was stepping into. Then one day, Novatech offered Ethan an opportunity, and also the greatest challenge of his life. Project Olympus. Goal: to build a comprehensive AI platform capable of analyzing data from billions of different sources, learning continuously without supervision, automatically proposing business, political, and even national strategies. If successful, Olympus would mark a historic leap forward. If it failed, Ethan would lose all his credibility, his career, even his future. The Novatech director said bluntly, "This project will crush you if you're not ready. It's the wall. Most people turn back. Will you? The wall." At Novatech, everyone knew this term. It was the point in a career when you face a challenge so massive, so terrifying that the ordinary ones turn back. The true warriors break the wall and move forward. Ethan simply replied with a small smile, "I'll walk through it." Olympus was a crazy dream. 18 of the best engineers were selected to build it alongside Ethan. The team included Irene Wang, expert in neural computation; Viktor Kuznetsov, quantum computing systems architect; Malik Al-Sayed, theoretical mathematician from Cairo. Each team member had once led top-tier projects, but they had never worked together, and none of them liked to lose. Chaos erupted in the very first week. Existing AI models were too weak to handle the data. Current storage systems crashed continuously. Heated debates over design philosophies exploded daily. Tensions peaked. In one strategic meeting, Irene Wang bluntly said, "This is impossible. We're being set up to fail." Many nodded in agreement. The atmosphere in the room was heavy as lead. Ethan looked around. He saw eyes full of doubt. He saw fatigue, fear seeping into every breath. He stepped up to the board and drew a big square. Inside, he wrote 3 words: "The wall." Then Ethan said, "This is the wall. It's not designed to destroy us. It's designed to show the world who we really are. We can walk away like everybody else, or we can climb it, bleed on it, and conquer it." A long silence. Then Irene slowly nodded. Viktor Schmierked faintly. Malik clenched his fists. Olympus entered a new era. No more complaints. No more excuses. Only battle. The Olympus team began fighting like cornered beasts. Irene redesigned the entire neural network, inspired by human brain structures. Victor collaborated with quantum researchers to build a system 100 times more powerful than the old standard. Malik developed a new auto-learning algorithm, something that had never existed in any academic document. Ethan worked 22 hours a day. He personally coded, checked systems, and motivated each member. When needed, he even went down to the cafeteria to buy coffee for the whole team. There were nights at 2 a.m. when the entire team sat on the lab floor, eating instant noodles while debugging errors. There were days when cheers erupted after a successful model training. And there were also moments when they silently shed tears as the system crashed beyond saving. But no one quit. Not a single one turned back. 3 months later, Olympus had its first demo. Ethan pressed the run button on the interface. Just 11 minutes later, the Olympus system had analyzed 1.2 billion pieces of user behavior data, identified 3 optimal strategies for financial company A, forecasted global market trends for the next 6 months with 92% accuracy. The entire lab exploded in cheers. Irene hugged Ethan tightly. Victor thumped him hard on the back. Malik cried right at his keyboard. They had done it. They had smashed the wall. The Olympus presentation to Novatech's board was breathtaking. As Ethan stepped off the stage, Novatech's CEO, Alexander Pierce, was waiting. He shook Ethan's hand firmly, his gaze serious. "You are not just a builder anymore. You are a wall breaker. Welcome." That night, Ethan sat alone on the rooftop of the Novatech building. The cold wind cut through him. Seattle stretched out below his feet, yellow lights twinkling like tiny stars. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Walk through fear. Break through fear. Live Beyond Fear. Chapter 6. Ashes and Rebirth. The success of Olympus made Ethan Carter the brightest star in the tech industry. Prestigious magazines featured his photo on their covers. Wired, Forbes, Time, top companies vied for his attention, offering salaries Ethan once only dreamed of. But Ethan declined all of them. He knew the peak everyone saw was actually just a small secondary summit on his journey. The real peak is where no one dares to go, where only the mad, the reckless, and the fearless can reach. Ethan decided to leave Novatech. No one could believe their ears when they heard the news. Irene, Victor, Malik, his closest teammates, organized a small farewell party. They drank beer, laughed, and reminisced about their frantic days of struggle. Near midnight, Malik, who was usually quiet, suddenly hugged Ethan and choked up. "Don't lose yourself, brother, even when you lose everything else." Ethan nodded. He understood, because the path he was about to walk was not just about glory, it was also about ashes. New York City, 1 year later. Ethan stood in front of building 437 on Madison Avenue. An old, almost abandoned house. Cracked walls, broken windows, trash scattered in the yard. This would be the headquarters of his new company. Company name, Phoenix Labs. Because Ethan believed, to be reborn on a grand scale, one must first be completely burned. He had $200,000 in savings from his time at Novatech. A crazy idea no one had ever tried. Build a self-learning AI system without sample data. And an unshakable belief. If not me, then no one else can do it. But life is not a Hollywood movie. In reality, everything was 1,000 times harder than Ethan imagined. First month, software bugs constantly. No clients trusted him enough to sign a contract. Ethan had to sell his only car to pay the electricity bill. Third month, an investor promised $2 million in funding. But after hearing Ethan's pitch, they coldly declared, too risky, too idealistic, no market. Sixth month, his bank account had only $274 left. Ethan had to sleep on the cold office floor. One night, he was so hungry he had to rummage through the trash for old breadcrumbs. Every morning, Ethan looked at his reflection in the mirror. His face was gaunt. His eyes were bloodshot. His clothes were ragged. Inside, a voice whispered, "Give up. Nobody will blame you. You've tried enough." But then, Ethan remembered the vow he made years ago. Do the things that are hard, that must be hard, so they can never do it. And he stood up. Each time he fell, he stood up again. Fall, rise. Fall, rise. Like a phoenix, dying and reborn, burning bright in the ashes. One cold winter day, Ethan was sitting alone, programming, when the office door suddenly opened. A young woman stepped in. Black hair tied up high, a thick, worn-out coat, eyes burning with fire. She handed Ethan a business card. Ava Mitchell, founder and CEO, Prism Health Tech. Ava spoke directly. "I heard about you. You're crazy enough. That's what we need." Prism Health Tech was developing an automatic medical diagnostic system. They had failed for 2 years because their old AI system could only imitate and couldn't create on its own. Ava believed that. Ethan could change that. First contract, value, $300,000. Phoenix Labs was officially reborn. 18 months later, Phoenix Labs had grown into a team of 27 talented individuals, secured 12 global clients, launched its first product, Ignis, the world's first self-learning AI system. Now, investors scrambled to approach Ethan. The name Ethan Carter became a symbol for madness, recklessness, and the power of rebirth from the ashes. A reporter asked him during an interview, "How did you survive when everything fell apart?" Ethan smiled and answered, "Because I chose to burn. Burn first, rise later." Chapter 7, The Phoenix Revolution. 2029, San Francisco. The global technology conference Futurefront just opened at the Moscone Center. Thousands of people packed the venue. Media outlets from BBC, CNN, to Bloomberg were all present. Tonight, the most anticipated figure wasn't the CEO of Google or Microsoft. It was a name that had almost become legendary. Ethan Carter, founder and CEO of Phoenix Labs. Ethan's image appeared on the giant LED screen. He wore a simple black shirt, faded jeans, old Converse shoes, no flashy attire, no grandstanding, only confidence and a fire in his eyes. The music played. Ethan stepped onto the stage to a thunderous round of applause. He smiled faintly, then said, "Tonight, we set the world on fire again, with a new kind of flame." The screen behind him changed its interface. A symbol appeared. Phoenix X. Phoenix X, the secret project Ethan had been nurturing for the past 3 years. A large-scale self-learning AI platform, capable of creating, improving, and healing the world. Not just for business, but also focused on healthcare, education, and the environment. Free for the community. Enterprises pay, but students, doctors, and teachers do not. A real revolution. The media exploded. Phoenix Labs is not just a company. It's a movement. Major tech corporations panicked. Amazon called an urgent meeting. Facebook, Meta, offered to buy Phoenix Labs for $5 billion. Some CEOs secretly swore to bring Ethan down at any cost. But Ethan didn't care. He had once lived off instant noodles, scraping by. He had once slept on cold tile floors, stomach growling with hunger. Now no one could bribe him. Phoenix Labs headquarters, 1 month later. 17th floor, strategy room. A world map was covered with red flags. Each flag marked a country where Ethan wanted Phoenix X to take root. Not only the US, but also Vietnam, Kenya, Peru, Bangladesh. Places where children needed opportunities. Places where the old systems had abandoned them. Ava Mitchell entered the room, carrying a report. Her hair had grown longer. She wore a white blouse, damp with sweat, but her gaze remained as determined as ever. She placed the report down, breathing heavily. Phase 1 complete. We're live in 28 countries. Ethan nodded. No celebración, no relaxación. He knew this was only the beginning. He stood in front of the map, holding a red pen, and circled the new regions. Syria, Congo, Papua New Guinea, the most dangerous, chaotic places. Ava frowned. Seriously? Those places are almost impossible. Ethan just smiled. That's why we have to go there first. Do the hard things. The impossible ones. 3 months later, Aleppo, Syria. A small room amidst the ruins. The sun scorched. The wind carried dust and the smell of gunpowder. In the room, an 11-year-old girl, thin with brown hair, sat studying. In her hand, an old tablet running Phoenix X education software. Despite the distant sounds of bombs, despite the houses around her collapsing, the light in her eyes still gleamed with the light of dreams. When Ethan saw that image through the remote camera, he was silent. A single tear rolled down his cheek, not because of sadness, but because he knew all the pain, the failures, the near-death hunger had been worth it. 1 year later, Phoenix X had operated in 73 countries, helped over 2.3 million students access free high-tech education, saved thousands of patients through its AI diagnostic system. Ethan Carter was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, but he declined. He sent an email. "I'm not building Phoenix for prizes. I'm building it so that one day, no kid has to choose between dreaming and surviving." One late night, Ethan sat alone in his dark office. Outside the window, San Francisco was shrouded in cold fog. In his hand, he held an old photo. A thin young man, dressed in ragged clothes, sleeping on a cold tile floor. It was him 5 years ago. He smiled. A familiar sing echoed in his heart. Do the things that are hard. Make sure they are hard, so they can never do it. Ethan stood up, left the office, stepped into the night, ready for the next flames. Chapter 8. The Unseen Battles. New York, 2031. Amidst the skyscrapers of Manhattan, where the hustle and bustle of people and the chaotic financial markets collide, a battle is unfolding. Silent, without gunfire, but just as brutal as any battlefield. Phoenix Labs, despite being praised by the world, has become the target of underground forces. Tech giants who don't want to lose their power. Governments afraid of losing control over information. Cybercriminal organizations seeking to manipulate the platform. An anonymous email arrived in Ethan's inbox at 3 a.m. Shut it down, or we will shut you down. He silently read it all. No police calls, no counseling meetings, no changes to the plan. Ethan had long been familiar with facing darkness. 22nd floor, Phoenix Labs headquarters, cybersecurity room. Kai Nakamura, head of security, a Japanese-American hacker legend who had once caused Interpol major headaches, was directly monitoring the incoming attacks. He furrowed his brow as he looked at the screen full of red alerts. 3,240 attacks from all over the world. Self-evolving AI virus. A massive botnet. Even clicks seemingly innocent from 15-year-olds being exploited. Kai turned to Ethan, his voice cold. They're coming. Harder than ever. Ethan simply nodded. Calm. He had predicted this. He knew. The closer success gets, the more darkness wants to devour it. 5th floor, legal department. Sofia Alvarez, head of legal, a former human rights lawyer, held a thick stack of files. 17 simultaneous lawsuits from major corporations. Allegations ranging from tax evasion, monopoly, to threatening national security. Some are being handled by bribe judges. Sophia frowned and placed the files in front of Ethan. We're fighting with one hand tied. They own the system. Ethan looked at the files. No sign of panic. He looked up and smiled faintly. Then we change the system, or we build a new one. 3 months later, the quiet counterattack begins. Phoenix Labs quietly launched. Phoenix Legal, a platform offering free legal support for small social enterprises. Phoenix Shield, the most powerful decentralized security system in the world. Phoenix Net, an independent, free internet network for the community, hard to censor. The old system trembled. Giant companies saw their revenues drop by 30%. Some governments sought cooperation rather than repression. Social startups sprouted like mushrooms after the rain. Ethan Carter, from a weirdo to the symbol of revolution for the new generation. But there is always a price to pay. One dark night, when Ethan left the headquarters, a black SUV sped out from the dark corner. 3 masked men jumped out. Without saying a word, they attacked Ethan relentlessly. He dodged the first punch, but 2 more struck him square in the chest and shoulder. He fell onto the cold road. They grabbed his phone, laptop, searched for confidential documents, but found nothing. Ethan always kept important data in offline memory and physical vaults. They retreated when they heard police sirens, leaving Ethan lying on the street, blood soaking his shirt. 1 week in the hospital, 2 broken ribs, light shoulder injury, but his mind remained sharp. As soon as he woke up, Ethan didn't ask about his condition. He only asked Kai, did we lose anything? Any data? Any project? Kai shook his head. Nothing. They failed. Again. Ethan smiled. The smile of someone who had accepted the fight. Not to survive, but to win. 3 years later, 2034, Phoenix Labs had become an international alliance. No longer just an American company. It was an open alliance. Multinational. Belonging to humanity. At this point, the head of Phoenix Labs was no longer CEO. It was a council made up of teachers, doctors, scientists, engineers, farmers, students. A world rebuilt, not based on profit, but on hope. Ethan Carter, now retired behind the scenes. He lived in a small house in Vermont. Each morning, he woke up early to toast bread, planted chrysanthemums around the yard, played his old wooden guitar. But each time the wind blew past his porch, Ethan would remember the days of fighting in the dark, the days that had forged him into a phoenix. In his heart, the old saying still echoed. Do the things that are hard. Make sure they are hard, so they can never do it. Chapter 9, Ashes and Crowns. Vermont. A May morning, 2034. The sunlight filtered through the old maple trees, casting a warm golden hue over Ethan Carter's small wooden house. He sat on the porch, holding a cup of black coffee, his gaze fixed on the endless stretch of green meadows in the distance. Life, after all the storms, seemed peaceful now. But Ethan knew well, this peace wasn't the end. It was merely the calm before a new chapter began. Message from Kai Nakamura, 6:45 a.m. Ethan, we have a situation. Urgent. Just one sentence. No details. Just reading it, Ethan understood. The ashes hadn't even cooled. The crown hadn't yet been placed on humanity's head, and the fire was already reigniting. Phoenix Labs, HQ, new headquarters in Reykjavik, Iceland. No longer a headquarters in New York. No longer tied to any nation. Phoenix Labs had become stateless, sovereignless, belonging only to those who dared to believe in change. In the round meeting room, familiar faces appeared. Kai Nakamura, Global Security Director. Sophia Alvarez, leader of the International Legal Alliance. Liam Chun, next-gen AI expert. Ava McKenna, environmental activist representing local communities. Kai projected an image onto the screen, a satellite photo of a secret facility in Siberia, Russia. Project name, New Dawn Protocol, a quantum supercomputer trained by tactical AI systems. Objective, take control of the global financial systems. Kai looked at Ethan, his voice heavy. They're trying to build a new empire, in the ashes of the old one. Action plan, Operation Phoenix Reborn. Weapons could not be used. Litigation could not be pursued. Protests could not be staged. There was only one way. Defeat them in the world they believed they controlled, the digital world. Liam Chun outlined a strategy. Develop a quantum-resistant AI, Athena protocol. Activate community nodes worldwide. Use blockchain to distribute power on a peer-to-peer basis. Ava McKenna added, and we must involve the people. This time, it's everyone's war. Ethan nodded. He understood. This battle couldn't be fought alone. It couldn't rely solely on quiet heroes. It needed humanity to rise together. 3 months later, PhoenixNet activation. Millions of devices worldwide were activated simultaneously. Phones, laptops, home routers, even old-school tablets in classrooms. Each device became a tiny node. In a vast network, each participant became a silent warrior. The Athena protocol, the first quantum-resistant AI, was now operational. There was no central control, no absolute leader, only trust, perseverance, and the spirit of do the hard thing until no one else can. Doomsday, the showdown in Siberia. Ethan didn't directly participate in the battle. He sat in his old wooden house, connected to the network, along with millions of others. One click, one heartbeat, one wave. Athena began to dance. She wormed her way through the layers of data. She faced off against the war algorithms forged by greed and fear. She, the embodiment of the human spirit, unyielding. 2 hours later, the New Dawn Protocol system began to collapse. The algorithms transformed into meaningless poems. The firewalls melted like wax under the sun. Black market bank accounts vanished. No bumps, no bloodshed, only a decaying power structure, collapsing right beneath the feet of those who thought they were invincible. A new world begins. Phoenix Labs did not declare victory. No flags were raised. No nations were formed. They only sent one message. This world belongs to no one, and everyone. Protect it, nurture it, rebuild it. Ethan put down his pen. He sent one final message on PhoenixNet. Do the hard thing, always, because easy things never change the world. Then he looked up, watching the fiery sunset paint the Vermont sky, smiling.
Chapter 9, Ashes and Crowns. Vermont, a May morning, 2034. The sunlight filtered through the old maple trees, casting a warm golden hue over Ethan Carter's small wooden house. He sat on the porch, holding a cup of black coffee, his gaze fixed on the endless stretch of green meadows in the distance. Life, after all the storms, seemed peaceful now. But Ethan knew well, this peace wasn't the end. It was merely the calm before a new chapter began. Message from Kai Nakamura, 6:45 a.m. Ethan, we have a situation. Urgent. Just one sentence. No details. Just reading it, Ethan understood. The ashes hadn't even cooled. The crown hadn't yet been placed on humanity's head, and the fire was already reigniting. Phoenix Labs, HQ, new headquarters in Reykjavik, Iceland. No longer a headquarters in New York. No longer tied to any nation. Phoenix Labs had become stateless, sovereignless, belonging only to those who dared to believe in change. In the round meeting room, familiar faces appeared. Kai Nakamura, Global Security Director. Sophia Alvarez, leader of the International Legal Alliance. Liam Chun, next-gen AI expert. Ava McKenna, environmental activist representing local communities. Kai projected an image onto the screen. A satellite photo of a secret facility in Siberia, Russia. Project name, New Dawn Protocol. A quantum supercomputer trained by tactical AI systems. Objective, take control of the global financial systems. Kai looked at Ethan, his voice heavy. They're trying to build a new empire in the ashes of the old one. Action plan, Operation Phoenix Reborn. Weapons could not be used. Litigation could not be pursued. Protests could not be staged. There was only one way. Defeat them in the world they believed they controlled, the digital world. Liam Chun outlined the strategy. Develop a quantum-resistant AI, Athena protocol. Activate community nodes worldwide. Use blockchain to distribute power on a peer-to-peer basis. Ava McKenna added, and we must involve the people. This time, it's everyone's war. Ethan nodded. He understood. This battle couldn't be fought alone. It couldn't rely solely on quiet heroes. It needed humanity to rise together. 3 months later, PhoenixNet activation. Millions of devices worldwide were activated simultaneously. Phones, laptops, home routers, even old-school tablets in classrooms. Each device became a tiny node in a vast network. Each participant became a silent warrior. The Athena protocol, the first quantum-resistant AI, was now operational. There was no central control, no absolute leader, only trust, perseverance, and the spirit of do the hard thing until no one else can. Doomsday, the showdown in Siberia. Ethan didn't directly participate in the battle. He sat in his old wooden house, connected to the network, along with millions of others. One click, one heartbeat, one wave. Athena began to dance. She wormed her way through the layers of data. She faced off against the war algorithms forged by greed and fear. She, the embodiment of the human spirit, unyielding. 2 hours later, the New Dawn Protocol system began to collapse. The algorithms transformed into meaningless poems. The firewalls melted like wax under the sun. Black market bank accounts vanished. No bumps, no bloodshed, only a decaying power structure, collapsing right beneath the feet of those who thought they were invincible. A new world begins. Phoenix Labs did not declare victory. No flags were raised. No nations were formed. They only sent one message. This world belongs to no one. And everyone. Protect it. Nurture it. Rebuild it. Ethan put down his pen. He sent one final message on PhoenixNet. Do the hard thing. Always. Because easy things never change the world. Then he looked up, watching the fiery sunset paint the Vermont sky. Smiling. Chapter 10. Legacy of Fire. 2035, Vermont, USA. The autumn sky stretched out in a deep blue expanse. Golden leaves fell gently in front of Ethan Carter's old wooden house. The wind rustled through the maple trees, carrying the faint chill of the approaching winter. Ethan sat at his desk. In front of him was a simple brown envelope, unmarked, unadorned. No logo, no seed, just one handwritten line. For those who dare, underscore. Underscore. Inside was a thick stack of documents. Records of global rebuilding communities. Maps of Phoenix schools. A list of initiatives born from the spirit of do the hard thing. And a letter. The letter from the Phoenix Council. Dear Ethan, a fire, when it fades, leaves ashes. But if we know how, from those ashes, green shoots can sprout. What we do today is not just to change the present. It is to plant the future. We want you to lead the Legacy Project, a global network of young generations, teaching them not just knowledge, but the spirit. Do the hard thing. Always. Ethan, are you ready to light thousands more fires? With all our faith. Phoenix Council. Ethan closed his eyes. Images flashed in his mind. The early days, when it was just him against the world. The failures, the falls, and then rising again. The companions who had fallen. Those still fighting. A quiet laugh escaped him. Do the hard thing? Of course. It had become his very breath. Legacy project, starting from forgotten lands. They didn't choose New York. They didn't choose Tokyo. They didn't choose Paris. They chose places the world had forgotten. Small villages in Congo. Indigenous communities in the Amazon. Ruined towns in the Middle East. There, Ethan and his team didn't bring aid. They brought tools. Knowledge of AI, blockchain, synthetic biology. Survival skills, self-reliance, creativity. And one repeated lesson. You are not victims. You are architects. Build your future with your own hands. Do the hard thing. Always. 5 years later, 2040. The world had changed. Floating cities, like Aurora Bay, were powered entirely by renewable energy. Phoenix schools sprouted like mushrooms across all 5 continents. Small economies based on community-operated blockchain networks had replaced traditional banks in many areas. And the children who had grown up in war and poverty were now scientists, engineers, poets, dreamers, all shared one thing in common: the Phoenix spirit, the spirit of not backing down from difficulty. Honoring Day, Vermont, 2040. On a morning in October, thousands gathered in Vermont. There were no flags, no national anthems, no ceremonial rituals, only one great fire in the middle of the meadow. And one by one, people told their stories of the moment they chose to do the hard thing. A 12-year-old girl from Kenya stood up. I chose to fix the broken water system in my village, even when the engineers said it was impossible. Now, my people have clean water because I did the hard thing. A young man from Syria. I built a school from ruins because education was harder to find than food. I did the hard thing. A 78-year-old man from Peru. I learned to code at 75 because my grandchildren needed hope. I did the hard thing. And Ethan Carter, the one who sparked it all, stepped forward. He didn't hold a microphone. He didn't stand on a stage. He just stood there in the circle of fire, looking at each face, each gaze, each scar, and smile. Then he spoke, his voice warm but powerful. This is not my legacy. This is our legacy. A legacy built not by easy wins, but by hard choices, by stubborn hearts, by those who chose to do the hard thing. When giving up was easier, keep building, keep burning. And when they ask you someday, how did you change the world? You tell them, I did the hard thing. The flames rose higher. The bright pink light bathed the sky in a red hue. A new generation, those who lit fires from the ashes, had truly risen. Rocket ready to keep burning with you. If you've made it this far, perhaps you're carrying a fire inside of you. The fire of those who dare to walk the hardest path. Don't let that fire go out. Like this video to fuel that spirit. And subscribe to the channel now, so you never miss any story, any fire, that we will light together. Because the game is just beginning. Fire. If you feel your heart beating faster, if there's a part of you urging you to do the hard thing, don't just sit there. Hit the subscribe button right now. Because here, we don't just tell stories. We create the world changers. Fire.